She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Oh, hey girl, what's your story? What's his story?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, what's my story?
I got oodles of them.
So you can guess, on this episode 68, we're talking about our stories, or their stories, or that story, how it affects our lives, how it makes us keep doing the same, or when we get to change our story. Just talking all about it. And let's kick it off with just, what do we mean by that story?
Oh, are you kicking it to me, Amanda? Since
I am, Melissa.
everyone pressured me to take this role.
Only because we love you, Melissa.
Yes.
You are amazing.
Thank
We
you.
believe in you.
Okay, well, it was my idea, and I feel like I'm in the story of my own, trying to correct it, and so it's hard for me to see outside of that story.
Is that your story?
That's my story. Do it.
You sticking to it?
Sticking to it. So I just wanted to talk about, not our story. Like, I was born in Oregon. I have a sister, and I grew up on a farm. Not that kind of story. The inner narrative, the story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. And I think that we get stuck in them. I've done some research, and it's a very human kind of modality to create stories around circumstances that are happening in our life. We want to make meaning. We want to understand the circumstance, that kind of thing. But what happens is we get stuck in like, I'm a victim. Things happen to me, and here it goes again, and I'm a victim, that kind of thing. Mine is, the one I'm stuck in now is, I'm getting feedback from my friends, and one person in particular on this call, Drusilla, brought it up to me in the first place, like, hey, where's your confidence? You really do have what it takes. And and I don't think you see that in yourself. And I've had some more feedback from my friends. And so it's made me start thinking, like, what is my story? What is this stuff I keep telling myself that keeps kind of like editing out certain things, of like either editing it out or editing it in, like the other shoe's going to drop, or I'm a victim, that kind of stuff. My inner narrative, how I'm interpreting the world based on the past. So, and I think for me, like mine was like in defense of things, like always waiting for the next shoe to drop. And like, I'm going to be defensive, almost offensively on the offense, being defensive.
Right? What? Say that 3 times.
Yes. So anyways, I'm really, really interested in letting go of this story and being able to see the world differently, and let circumstances and people and places and things into my life that I haven't, because I've been on the defense. So I hope does that make sense?
I have a question, Melissa.
Yeah.
So is this similar to like, I've heard it and I believe it, that we make up most of our beliefs by the time we're 5 or 7 years old. Are you talking about that kind of story, like those childhood stories that we've,
Sure.
And they say that at 5 or 7 years old, we're not able to discern what's really right or wrong. And so we've made up all these beliefs about life and others and ourselves that pretty much carries with us until we die, unless we interrupt them.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
It is. And it's so thoughts we can let go, beliefs we can let go, feelings we can even let go. But I'm now discovering stories we can let go. So we don't, like these things don't have to define us. And it was new news to me that you don't have to live in your story. You don't have to all these things have happened and now I'm here and I'm grown up with it, but still I'm packing all this stuff with me. I can let go of the story just as easily as I can let go of a feeling. So
kind of like baggage, right?
Yeah.
Melissa, what I heard you say, the definition of a story is that inner dialogue, right? No matter where it came from.
Exactly.
Yeah. And something else really powerful that I heard was that you can, your story is excluding input or making things you didn't use, excluding something and including something, including what the mind loop and excluding, Drusilla giving you feedback that you're amazing and your story wants to exclude that.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's giving, it's the ego's playground and it's giving room for you to make excuses and play small. And I think as long as we're having this experience, the ego is constantly trying to make sense of it and constantly fabricating these new stories. You finally feel like you've cleared yourself of one only to find that you've replaced it with 3 new ones.
Yeah, I think it's really a challenge because we don't realize how much of ourselves, our personalities, basically our entire personality almost is made up of stories that we've told ourselves, even since, like you said, Penny, even since a young kid, but then packing it on as we go. Imagine the teenage years and how many other stories we packed on just from that whole experience. And then the dating. What kind of stories did you tell yourself when you started dating, or what stories came with you as a part of your dating? And then you packed on more, so yes. And, according to the Course in Miracles, that is the number one threat to the ego, is dismantling the stories, because then the ego makes you feel like, well, who would I be if it weren't for the stories? Even the bad ones make you feel like at least you're something, right? And so that's a major fear, to let go of stories.
Drusilla, that's you brought up a point that our stories are familiar, right? Doesn't mean they're healthy or you want to keep them, but they're familiar. Right? Yeah. It's the groove in the record player. The record player that you've listened to over and over and over and over again.
It also, what's coming to mind as we're talking about this, it's really like another word for our agreements, like from the book, The 4 Agreements. Like someone told you, oh, you poor thing, XYZ happened to you, and you bought the narrative. You agreed with that story and it became your story and your identifier, and you built your whole belief system and operating system around this story of, oh, poor me.
And then we go out and look for evidence that it's true. So I have this isn't the story I was going to share, but when I was in high school, I really wanted to go to the prom. I went out and I knew I was going to go to the prom, right? I got a prom dress. I think it was the senior prom too. I don't think I went to the junior prom because nobody asked me, but at my senior prom, I was going to the prom. My sister, who had a boyfriend since she was 16, she was going to the prom, of course, because her boyfriend, and she's been married to him now for 40 years or something like that. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to the prom. I'm so convinced I'm going to the prom. I get the dress and then nobody asks me. So I start asking guys
to go to the prom. I asked 4 guys to go and they all turned me down. So I went to the prom and watched the Grand March. I did not go to the prom, and my dress, I think I still have it. Anyway, the point is then a year later, my sister gets married at 18. My great uncle tells me, "Oh my God, Penny, how does it feel to be an old maid?" I was 19 years old, but my younger sister got married. So now I'm an old maid.
Uh-huh.
And so I think I gathered evidence that I wasn't able to do like relationships because number one, I couldn't get a date to the prom. I couldn't get a date. I asked 4 guys to go and they wouldn't go. And then my sister gets married before me. And so I made up this story and I did not get married till I was 32 years old. And so it took me a long time, but I also made up another story that I wanted to do all these things with my life before I got settled down and had children. So it's so interesting how I can.
Good story.
Yeah.
So what's your inner dialogue about that? Like, or what?
It's always been, I'm not good enough. Like, nobody I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not good enough, because that's why nobody would go to the prom with me. Absolutely. So most of my stories are around, I'm not enough.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're talking about here. Those, what are your inner stories? And sometimes it served us when we were younger, but now we're just holding on to it.
Yeah. I think I'm going to just counter that, Melissa.
Yeah.
We thought they served us, that we thought they kept us safe or whatever. We thought that they were okay. We believed them. But really, as adults now, when we really have the ability to rewrite the story, we don't have to believe it anymore. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So like, what kind of benefits come from holding on to a story?
Well, let's take Penny's example specifically. Are you aware of any benefits?
Any benefits from that? And I would say, God, do you guys see any benefits? I can't see any. What benefit do you see, Melissa?
Well, by not entering into a relationship and thinking you're not good enough for it, you don't get your heart broken.
Oh,
you don't have to fail. You don't have to give up yourself.
You reject yourself before someone else has a chance to reject you.
Wow. All those things were running in the background. And that's the cool thing about doing this episode is we don't even realize the shit that's running in the background that's wiping us out of living our life fully.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's got another example that we can take apart?
That we can analyze? Yeah, everybody can do it.
Let's do it. What's the story you're in right now, Melissa? You said you're in a story right now, if you want to share it.
Yeah.
Of course
she wants to share.
Drusilla, you haven't been talking much, so.
He started this whole thing like 2 months ago. No, I just honestly, I'm doing some new business ventures and there's just something about it where I'm like, I'm confident, but I'm not, I don't even know. It's like, I don't believe it, or
like your fire isn't lit.
Yeah. No, it's more, it's really what Drusilla said. I just don't see my contribution. I don't see my
value,
greatness. Yeah. Or my genius. And I think there is something about, I'm a downplayer, just downplaying it, making fun of myself sometimes, joking. I have a hard time just being a star, I guess, or being important.
Are you aware of the benefits in your story?
Oh yeah, I don't have to fail if I don't put myself out there. I know Gay Hendricks in the book, The Genius, what is that? Genius Zone or something? The Zone of Genius, where he talks about the Zone of Genius, but it's
is it the Big Leap when he talks about that?
The Big Leap. there is people downplay sometimes because in their family, they kind of weren't, you're like, don't be too big for your britches kind of thing.
Mhm.
I never thought that was a part of my family dynamic, but that has been coming up for me. Like I
I think
can't,
it's part of the female dynamic.
it could be.
Mhm.
Yes.
It could be males too.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So something's in there, something's brewing. I'm really cool with letting it go.
So were you told as a kid that you couldn't shine?
No, but I was raised very Catholic by a very Catholic grandmother. And, like you sat down, you put your hand on your hands, on your legs, and you crossed your legs. And there was all these little rules and all this like good girl stuff.
I was going to
And-
say for girls, because I know a lot of Catholics that are out there, putting the
Sure.
world on fire. And so,
Sure. Well, I just think it was a just a
proper.
proper.
Mhm.
So, Melissa, in that story, what would you what part of that story would you have to let go to like embrace your greatness?
Mhm.
I think I just have to believe that I can do it differently now. This is the place I'm stuck.
Mm.
Because I also have a story of like, I just can't figure it out. And
So you go into confusion.
yeah. And
Mhm.
I read something recently, like the more you stay in your mind loop, the less you're wanting to feel it.
Mm.
So I think I'm just really in there. I'm like looping around and I'm just not there yet in the feeling part.
So one of the things that I've been learning in the recent coaches training that I've been going through is that we spend so much time in our head that we have to get into our body and get out of our head, because the head, nobody, what is it in 12-step recovery? We thought our way into this place. So why would we want to, we can't think our way out.
Yes.
Wow.
So
That's so congruent with the Course in Miracles too.
Yes. And so, so what I've been really practicing lately is really building my mental fitness by being in my body. Feeling the fingerprints, the grooves on my fingers, paying attention to the temperature of the air going in and out of my nose, because it's different when it goes in and it's different when it comes out. Wiggling my toes to feel all 10 toes on my feet. Anytime I recognize that I'm like overthinking something, I work to get myself back into my body, because I know that my mind can be a dangerous place to hang out at times. Yeah.
That's a powerful practice, Penny.
It is. I was going to
Mhm.
say, I just love how Penny always has these practical ways of dealing with things. I love it.
Yeah,
Thank
she's
you.
such an expert too, like Melissa. And I feel like she has a similar something holding her back as Melissa does. Not to project that onto you, Penny. I don't mean to write your story for you.
Keep your story to yourself.
No, I don't feel like you're projecting on me at all, Morgan. And we have had this discussion before. So yeah. It's so easy for me to do it for others, but to do it for myself, sometimes it's really challenging. So this year I'm focusing on doing it for Penny, so that I can overcome these stories.
I want to piggyback on that practical tool that you just gave us, because this girl who's co-hosting my 12-step Kundalini workshop where we're moving through the scale of consciousness, she said this so clearly. I've heard this before, but never quite so clearly. Either the mind controls the breath or the breath controls the mind. And so another practice to help get us out of our mind is to start conscious breathing. And for me, another practice too is when I'm trying to figure things out. I know this works and I rarely choose to do this, even though I know it works, is to just stop what I'm doing and go for a walk on the beach or go do something in nature to disconnect from my problems and allow inspiration to come through. Meditation would also work, like any of these modalities, but it's like when
it's like really just slowing down, right?
Strong. Yeah, exactly.
Slowing down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I'm recognizing too is I've been running away for so long that it's really challenging to slow down.
Wow.
I'm having that experience too. That's my story.
That's my story. So what is it? What story are you running away from, Penny?
You know, I think that I have avoided my emotions for so long and stuffed them down that I'm running away from the fear that if I start feeling my emotions, I'm going to die. It's going to kill me. I won't survive. I won't be able to stop crying. I'll start crying and I'll cry for the rest of my life. I know it's a silly story.
That is not silly, right? But it's not silly.
Yeah. So I think I'm running away from really feeling my emotions because the story is, as I was told, if you cry, I'm going to give you something to cry. You stop that crying or I'll give you something to cry about. You know, I wasn't allowed. And so that's a story I really am working on interrupting. And I'm probably going to start crying right now because it's a sad story. If you really think about it.
But you'll be releasing it.
I
That's
know.
a good thing.
It's really good. I agree, Drusilla. Yeah.
And I think it's really unusual for a woman to feel that. I know that's really typical for a man to feel like if they stop and they actually cry, that they're going to release all the stuff that they carry around. But yeah, I think it's really brave of you to tell that story and to be in your feelings about it right now. Really beautiful.
Thank you. And another thing that I'm learning is not to stop the emotions when they come.
Yeah.
Because I'm really good at doing that too.
Yeah. This is a safe space. Let it flow, sis.
Yeah. Well, I remember.
It's like trying to stop a sneeze. Nobody wants to do that.
Well, we do it all the time though. And that's a crime against humanity when we stop a sneeze or hold our urine or don't go to the bathroom when we have to go. It's really a crime against ourselves when we do that in the yogic tradition. You want to just let all those natural things happen and not stop them. Yeah. And look at you guys. I haven't died yet either.
I know. You made it through.
Crying.
Yeah. What does it say? That they will actually pass in about 90 seconds if you just give them some breathing room.
And wasn't that about 90 seconds?
Yeah.
There's something
you,
really,
Amanda?
I was just going to say, like, there's something really scary about letting go of a story. Like, when Penny was just talking about all the emotions coming up and like having to feel all the emotions and all that. But what if we let go of a story of, like, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. I'm going to be living this way. What if we were to let that go? Like, there's a fear of the unknown that's super scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what if I, let go of this story and like I end up divorcing my husband, right? Or heaven forbid that I'll stay married, right? So there's all kinds of stories.
What ifs? Big what ifs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Amanda, you can totally relate to this, and you just inspired me or made me think of this. But like, I had this story that I have a strong work ethic. I have an amazing job. I'm really good at my job. I make really good money, and I have to just do this job in this way and, uphold society's expectation and family's expectation and do this until I'm 65. And then maybe I can retire comfortably and live happily ever after. That was a story that was running my life for my whole life. And I let that go. And it was quite scary to let that go. And now I've just replaced it with all new stories of I have to figure things out. I don't want to have a hard work ethic anymore. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it on my own time, on my own terms. And that makes me lazy and everybody's judging me and I don't deserve to make a lot of money and I have to work hard and earn the money. And, so all these new stories have just come rushing in to fill the space that was created from letting go the past story.
No wonder like society is exhausted, right? You just saying all that. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are the ways that we can really let go of the stories permanently?
Isn't that the $1 million question?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the solution and I can only think of what helped me on an interim. And I don't know if it's a permanent way, but I found that when I spent lengths of time really being in the present, then I would automatically let those stories drop. I would see them come up and I would feel the feeling of it, the weight of it. It almost feels like a weight of it, right? And as long as I was operating, because we all know we can go in and out of that, of being able to stay present and operating in bliss and God's will, and you can feel it, the difference. And the stories just didn't exist because you're operating from a more authentic place. So they just don't, or they don't have any impact on you. Right. But I can't say for sure that I know that they're gone forever. I don't know that for sure.
Well, I think we're human beings. They'll probably come back up again.
Yeah.
But I think the awareness, though, like the Course says, it's curative, right? So the awareness of it is probably what I was experiencing, right? I was aware that they were there, but they didn't impact me. So I guess that would be one way of looking at it.
Yeah,
I agree. And I've recently heard that when we're not in the present and we're future tripping out in the future, we're only looking at the future based on our past stories.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can stay in the present, and stay in the present open without stories, because you really don't have a story when you're in the present, then other things can come to you in the future. You can be open to lots of different variations of the future instead of what you're thinking it's going to be based on your past stories. And I also think that, like for me, just to be able to talk about this on a podcast with possible like business people that I do business with and stuff, I just really think I have to be authentic to be able to move through. I have to be honest, but most of all, I have to have some courage, because like what Morgan was talking about, the map of consciousness, like I just have to take one little courageous step or make one courageous move towards more authenticity. And I know these things are going to fall away. And I also really, like I said earlier, I realized, I'm doing a lot in the Sedona method. And in the Sedona method, you're always working against the resistance you have on anything. And so even when you're in letting go of resistance against something, your story can pop up. And I never even realized I could let go of the story that's in my head. So that's been really helpful for me too, to know, oh, this is like the feeling I had 5 minutes ago. I could just let that go. So, but I do think like feeling the fingertips and the counting your toes and staying present and, and breathing. That's the key for me too. Staying present.
It is very powerful. What I've been working with lately, Melissa, inspired by you, is what sparked this topic. You shared a story from maybe like a coaching class you were in where someone had shared vulnerably about what was going on for them. And the coach said, "Oh, is that your story?" And I've been using that on myself just to bring like some lightheartedness to the equation. Whenever I catch myself like feeling sorry for myself or believing something negative about myself, just kind of joking with myself in that way. And I also I like to reaffirm like of myself, I can do nothing. I don't remember if it's in A Course in Miracles also. I think it's in A Course in Miracles and in the New Testament, but of myself, I can do nothing. And so just kind of getting out of the way, because a lot of times the story shows up when I'm about to do a counseling session or lead a Kundalini yoga class. And then my breath stops and I get nervous. And then I remember like, oh, I don't have to worry about this. I'm not even in charge here. Like I can just trust and get out of the way. And that helps. That's been helpful for me too.
Right. So after you punch somebody for saying, "What's your story?" So is that your story? Yeah. Sorry. I digressed, right? I went backwards instead of forwards. Mm-hmm. Penny, I talked right over you.
I'm figuring it out. So okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard you right, Morgan. You said, "In myself, I can do no wrong," or what was it that you said? Because I really liked that.
Of myself with a small s, I can do nothing. And then that goes on to say like, but through Christ, all things are possible. So tapping into like our true nature, our higher self, Christ consciousness, Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think when those things seem like, oh, I'm never going to get rid of this story. I'm always going to, this isn't my personal story, but I'm always going to attract losers. I'm always going to get another deadbeat guy or whatever. Like,
I'm always going to be alone.
I'm always going to be alone. Unpopular. I think that when things seem so big, then that's when you partner up. That's when you like pray or ask for help or with your higher self or God, whoever you believe in or whatever you believe in. Because I've been in that spot before where I think, how am I ever going to freaking get beyond this? And I just like, Morgan, I can't do it by myself.
Mm-hmm. And I just was talking to a mentor right before we got on this podcast recording, and my daughter got married last September, and we're having a wedding party in June, and there's going to be several hundred people there. And I'm not at the weight that I would like to be, and I wasn't at the weight I would like to be in September either. But when she got married, I decided I'm just going to really enjoy the day, and it was really small. There was only 12 of us, including the wedding couple. At the wedding. So it was just a really nice, small, intimate event. And I'm kind of like, oh God, it's like 90 days away till the event in June. And so my mentor said, well, why don't you write out your vision for the wedding party? Like what you're going to be wearing, how you're going to be feeling, how the guests that are going to show up. And so write the story out before it happens. Write the narrative, create it, curate it. Like Morgan's always talking about how she's curating her social media platform. Curate the story before it happens, and then live to it. Like, everybody's going to have an obituary eventually, right? So why don't you write your obituary now and then live to it?
Right.
That's
Love it.
I'm going to write out my vision for the wedding party, and I'm going to write it.
Yeah.
And
I'm
what,
doing the same thing, Penny. I am going, my niece is getting married and I've set a clear intention, right? I'm going to show up authentically. We're going to laugh a lot, right? On there, it says fashion, right? Some type of, like looking good, feeling good, laughing a lot. So I did the same thing for a big event that I have coming up and I love it. Although I didn't write down there, I need to be size whatever, right? That just didn't even come up in our planning. I want to
You'll feel good. You're going to feel good. Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great way to change our story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I like that.
Consciously rewriting it.
Yeah. Or writing it before it even happens.
Yeah. We talked about like being in the middle of it. Like Penny, you gave us some concrete, if you start the mind loop story, give us some concrete ways of grounding and breathing. And Morgan, you gave us some things that you do. You stop and go walk, or you hit pause on the narrative. Was there any other ways that we talked about that I missed to consciously change a narrative in our mind that we don't want in there anymore?
Well, Drusilla talked about being present and forgetting about the stories that are coming and the stories that have been. And so everything that we're talking about is just being present in the moment.
Yes.
And just, fear is false evidence appearing real. And so, like 99.999% of the things that we fear never, ever materialize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so funny what we do to ourselves. This ego run human being that we are. When we let the ego run, I should say. Don't want to shit on myself. I could have said when the ego runs us, right?
I do want a t-shirt. Our first t-shirt that we're selling is 5 Lemons Laughing is don't shit on yourself.
Yeah.
If we ever get around to doing merch, right? Don't shit on yourself.
Good one.
Any final thoughts before we close, ladies? I can't believe this time has gone by so fast.
Nope.
Okay. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening in today. It's been another amazing episode. So I have a couple of Post-its and they're kind of, okay, look at me making up stories. I am
right.
I'm in the story.
Amazing.
I am, the meaning, I make meaning of so much stuff that it's just tiring, exhausting, like Morgan was talking about. Okay, either my mind controls my breath or my breath controls my mind. I love that, Morgan, when you said that. And I love the question, like, who would I be if I let go of all my stories? Is that what I said? Yeah. Yeah. So let it go. God, just let it go. And then I was trying to write that one down, Morgan. I'm just... So of myself, actually, I can do nothing. I don't know.
It's actually, it's John 5:30. I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me.
Ooh, it's a big one. Yeah.
That is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that our higher power has sent us here today to be with you all, and we are so grateful that we're together with you. So keep on listening, because we're going to keep bringing them on. This is episode 68, and we got more in us. I just know it. So you can catch us on the different podcast platforms, and our website is 5lemonslaughing.com, 5 F-I-V-E, lemonslaughing.com. So stay tuned. More to come. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.